Consequences and Confessions by Nightroad.
Congrats, Twilight.
The party was in full swing, and it hadn't even been going on for more than 15 minutes. The unicorn in question blushed and smiled sheepishly. The party was for the heroine of the hour, Twilight Sparkle. She had, by herself, sent a large group of manticores back into the Everfree Forest after they had been lured out by a group of unicorn fillies who wanted to see Twilight's magic work once more. Twilight was just so happy that the fillies had been unharmed during the creature's rampage. As the lavender pony danced, she accepted the praise and compliments with hesitance. Twilight never was one to stay in the spotlight for too long, nor did she like to. The unicorn had accepted at least 30 or so positive comments before she felt overwhelmed and had excused herself for a breath of air.
That was mighty brave of you, Twi.
Twilight turned and saw the familiar orange earth pony standing against the wall, hat tipped ever so slightly.
Thanks, Applejack, but I just did what any pony would have done. Nothing too noteworthy.
You saved 4 fillies from being gobbled up. I'd say that's pretty special.
Twilight just blushed and nodded.
If you say so.
The two stood out in the dark, gazing up at the beautiful night sky and speaking no words.
Well, I guess we should be getting home. I'm sure Spike is starting to worry.
Twilight said finally.
Yeah. Hey, Twilight.
The purple pony turned and saw that her friend was staring at the ground, pushing a small clump of dirt.
Is there something wrong, Applejack?
The farm pony didn't answer right away, as if trying to find the right answer.
Whatever it is, you can tell me, Applejack. We're friends.
I know, it's just... This ain't exactly easy to say for me.
Twilight nodded and waited for Applejack. And finally, with a huff and a tip of her hat, Applejack turned and said,
Forget it. It ain't important. Listen, I'll catch you later, Twilight. I got work tomorrow.
And with that, the orange pony took off down the road. Twilight held up a hoof as if to call out her disappearing friend, but a yawn stopped her.
I'll ask her tomorrow. Too tired now.
Twilight turned back to the library. When she entered, she locked the door behind her, and after checking to make sure Spike was asleep, headed to bed herself. The next day, when Twilight woke up, she had went through her usual morning routine before finding Spike still passed out in his bed. So, with a smile, Twilight headed down to the kitchen and began to make breakfast. It wasn't until she almost finished that he seemed to float into the room, using only the scent of food to keep him propelled. That smells delicious, he mumbled groggily, a smile on his face as his tongue running across his lips hungrily.
It's about time you got up. I hate to say it, but you need to hurry up and eat. Or did you forget that today is the day that you're repaying Applejack for that tree you burnt down?
He groaned and said, But it was an accident, Twilight.
Normally, I would agree with you. However, you tried to run from your mistake, and it could have turned out a lot worse if Applejack hadn't seen you trying to run away. You brought this upon yourself, Spike.
The young dragon mumbled in defeat as the unicorn levitated a stack of pancakes onto his plate. He ate quickly and, after downing 2 cups of orange juice, headed out for the marketplace to find Applejack's cart. Twilight, on the other hand, after cleaning the dishes, made a quick checklist of the things she would need to do and headed out, grabbing her saddlebags as she went. Most of her shopping went well. A bargain here, a sale there. Only once did she have to haggle with a pony for a book she desperately wanted.
Let's see. Now I just need to pick up some food, and I can get to my studies for the day.
The unicorn took a right, and after passing by the library, took another right, and soon was browsing through all the different stalls the market had to offer. There were more than a few times temptation had nearly gotten the better of her whenever she passed by things that she had an interest in.
No, now's not the time, Twilight. Nourishment comes before studies.
She mumbled quickly to herself as she began to buy food she needed. She was on her way to Applejack's cart when some pony shoved her down the road. You! This is all your fault! The bookworm felt a pain explode in her head, and stars started to appear out of nowhere in her vision as the hoof fell away from her. Twilight shook her head and to rid herself of the stars, but the pain was much the worse.
What did I do?
You took my little girl from me! Another hoof threw itself at Twilight, but this time it caught the unicorn's barrel, causing her to cough violently. All because of your stupid magic, and your need to show it off! I can't stand you, unicorns! The pony turned and kicked, sending Twilight tumbling towards the road. My little firelock! She was just a unicorn like you! That night we watched you carry the earth away, you were the one that she talked about! The pony paced around the pained unicorn, grateful for the crowd around her. She was on a mission, and this crowd could help her spread the message. Last night, she got an idea that if you could do those things with magic, that she could do too. So, she snuck out to the Everfree Forest and tried to vanquish something with her magic. By the time I found out, I was too late. The stallion got right in front of Twilight's face, tears streaming from his face as the orange eyes burned with rage. Have you ever heard the sound of a filly's bones breaking and snapping as she's being devoured by timber wolves? How about that strangled gurgles of blood as fills her throat and pours down her mouth as she screams for not for her mother, but for you? How about the sight of her limbs being tossed about as food as blood sprays around, huh? Twilight had been trying to resist the urge to vomit, but when she couldn't hold it no longer and wretched it all over the ground near her, making some ponies step back. You're not a hero! You're a monster! The stallion screamed and rose up to crush Twilight's skull, as if she would have, if not for the flying ball of orange that tackled her to the ground and began to mercilessly pummel the mare. Twilight used the opportunity to run as quickly as she could, while Applejack screamed at the stallion. It took 4 other stallions to drag Applejack off of the cold, where the cold once was hateful and invincible. He was now weak and fearful.
What the hell is wrong with you? That unicorn risked her damn life to save our town again last night. She can't know everything, you damn fool.
No pony said a word. To use such strong and harsh words was a clear sign that a pony was being dead serious, and every pony knew that when an apple was that serious, you listened. Applejack snorted in hate at the broken colt before her, before running after Twilight. Thankfully, Rainbow Dash had heard the outburst of the apple, and after getting a briefing of what had been going on, flew off to the alert of the others of the group to find Twilight. They quickly turned to night before the others had begun to tire.
Applejack, she's a big girl. She can take care of herself until tomorrow,
Rarity said, holding up one of her aching hooves.
I know that, but I'm not stopping till I find her.
With her last exclamation, the stubborn earth pony ran deeper into the Everfree, where an older stallion had said he saw Twilight run into. Applejack ran for what seemed like an eternity before she finally had to stop to catch her breath.
Dang it, Twi, where are you?
As if to answer her question, a flash of light and the crashing of thunder filled the air, scaring the pony. A few drops of rain landed onto her face, and Applejack cursed under her breath.
Gotta find shelter.
She glanced around quickly, and all she could find was a cave nearby. She walked up to the cave and cautiously peered inside. The only thing that peered back was the pitch-black darkness.
Well, here I go.
With the lump in her throat swallowed, and after pushing her hat further down onto her head, Applejack cantered into the darkness. She had taken no more than 6 steps when a voice stopped her.
Stop! Please. Go away.
Applejack's eyes widened in joy as she ran deeper into the cave.
Twilight. Sure, Cube, I was so worried about you. Please just...
The orange pony's words were cut off as she ran into something solid.
Oh. Twilight, what's going on?
I put up a barrier. A monster like me should be separated from the rest of the world. Right?
The earth pony could practically feel the sorrow in her friend's voice.
Oh, you ain't a monster, Twi. You're my friend. Now come out of there.
Applejack said, pressing against the invisible wall. In the darkness, She could see Twilight's violet eyes looking back at her.
No. I can't.
Fine. You won't come out? I'll just come in.
Applejack took a step back and then dashed forward and pressed herself against the barrier.
It's no use. My magic is much too strong.
The student said dishearteningly.
I don't care.
Applejack continued to press herself against the barrier, hoping that she was making some kind of progress. After a few more minutes, she heard a small cracking noise.
Please, Applejack, just go away!
Twilight was distressed by this point, evident by the shakiness in her voice.
No can do, Sugar Cube.
And with one last push, the barrier shattered much like glass would, and fell all around Applejack. As soon as the shards quit falling and faded into nothingness, she ran straight to Twilight and pulled her into a hug. Twilight pushed and struggled against her friend, but to no avail.
You ain't a monster, Twilight.
With no other option, the unicorn bawled loudly and hid her face into the mane of her friend. Applejack just sat there, stroking her friend's back and giving words of comfort to the distraught pony. When Twilight's tears finally dried, she ended up falling asleep onto Applejack. The foreign pony didn't mind, so after carefully removing her hat and mane tie, Applejack lay down and moved Twilight's head so that she would be resting on her stomach. The earth pony sighed and watched the rain fall outside the cave. It lasted well into the night and was still going when Twilight woke up.
Applejack?
Howdy, Sugar Cube. How you feeling?
Unicorn stayed silent.
Come on, Twi. Talk to me.
I feel horrible. I caused Ophelio's death, Applejack. That mare in town was right. I'm nothing but a...
That's a load of horse feathers, and you know it. Yes, it is sad that Ophelia was eaten by a pack of timber wolves, but Equestria isn't entirely without danger. These things happen, Twilight. It's just nature.
You don't understand. It was because of my magic that she came out here in the first place. I never would have shown off my magic.
Neither of us would be here right now, and if you weren't showing off, you were protecting your home. No pony would have saw this coming.
Twilight jumped up and said,
I could have, though. If I would have stopped to think of the consequences, then I could have saved her life.
Applejack stood up now and said,
Oh, really? So you're saying that being eaten by an Ursa back then, or manticores yesterday, would have been better?
Twilight turned back around with tears fresh in her eyes.
No, but if I could have just done something different.
The unicorn collapsed onto her knees and just lay there, staring at the rock floor.
Listen, Twilight. I think that if someone else could have been done, we wouldn't be here to talk about it. Now come on. Else we end up like that filly and getting eaten alive.
Good. Maybe a timber wolf will come and rip me to shreds, too. That's what I deserve.
Applejack grit her teeth and said,
Would you stop that? You aren't a bad pony, Twilight Sparkle. No pony can predict the future like that. No pony knew that she would have came out here to be like you. You can't change what's already happened. And if you decide to stay out here, what would every pony else think? What would our friends think?
They would all congratulate that mare on running a monster like me out of town. As for our friends, they'd be sad at first, but after a while, they'd think the same thing.
Applejack rose her hoof and lightly slapped Twilight.
No. We would all be worried sick about you. No pony would congratulate that mare. If anything, they'd send her away for making you leave and possible come to your death. You become part of our lives, and we wouldn't dream taking you out of it. We need you. I need you.
The last few words stuck in Twilight's mind. I need you. They played over and over again, as if she tried to reach a conclusion that she already knew.
What do you mean you need me?
Applejack quickly looked away, as a blush formed on her face.
Well, it's just that this past year and a half you've been with us, I, sorta, maybe, fell
The rest of the sentence was lost, as the crack of thunder let them both know that the rain was still falling.
I didn't catch that.
Nothing. It was nothing.
Twilight frowned and said,
You're lying. You don't want to say anything to me because you know you're afraid that I'll zap you with my magic. You see, I am a monster. Even my friend is afraid of me.
Applejack tackled Twilight to the ground and held her down firmly while looking her straight in the eye.
I am not afraid of you, Twi. I'm just afraid of how you'll think of me. You see, I've been watching you for a while, and I've wanted to tell you, but I didn't think now would be the best time. I didn't want to seem like I was taking advantage of you during your crisis and all, but at the same time, now would be a good time just because we're alone.
Applejack's sentence died in her throat before she could finish. The two laid there for who knows how long before Applejack stepped off and away from Twilight. She walked over to the edge of the cave and watched the rain fall while the lavender pony had yet to move.
I don't understand. She keeps saying that every pony would miss me, but when it comes to herself, she seems to emphasize it. Does that mean she feels closer to me than our other friends do? How can she think like that? I'm a monster, a killer. How could she... Wait.
Twilight looked back and saw Applejack sneaking a look back at her. The lavender unicorn saw the hint of redness on her face before she spun back around.
I can't believe it. Applejack. Honest Applejack is in love with me. You can't do that.
Applejack turned and saw Twilight with her head down, shadows lighting her facial features.
What was that, Sugar Cube?
I said you can't do that.
Twilight threw her head up, and in a flash of light appeared right in front of the orange pony.
You can't just follow me out here when I had planned to exile myself and just love me.
Applejack stumbled back and fell into the rain on her back.
I'm a monster, Applejack. My magic is powerful enough to destroy all of Ponyville in one thought if I wanted to. I can kill hundreds of thousands of ponies if I so chose to. So why do you love me?
Twilight stepped closer with each word until she was standing above Applejack with tears mixed with the rain.
What are you...
Save it. I'm not an idiot, Applejack. I may not have many experiences with love, but I know what it is, and I know it when I see it. I've seen it my whole life. Other ponies falling in love while I was alone, and now I know why.
The unicorn stepped away and sniffled.
It's because I'm a monster. All those ponies know how dangerous I am, and they don't even want to be near me.
As if to confirm this, Twilight's horn began to glow, and with a wave of her head, a blade of pure magic energy flew off into the arc as she drew in the air, and chopped with ease through more trees than Applejack could ever count. Then, a violet sphere formed in front of the magical pony, and suddenly rushed past as Applejack's face, warming her whole body before moving on and erupting a few miles behind her. Twilight continued to show the destructive nature of her magic, while tears flowed freely from her eyes.
Twilight, stop.
Applejack ran at the unicorn and tackled her to the ground once again.
Let me go! Let me go, or I'll...
Yo, what? I know for a fact you wouldn't hurt your friends.
After swallowing a few lumps in her throat, Applejack took a deep breath and said,
And yes, I do love you. But that's not important now. Listen, Sugar Cube, while every pony else may not love you like I do, they'll still be mighty upset if you don't come back.
The farmer's pony lowered her head and rested it on Twilight's chest and listened to the rhythmic beating in her chest.
I also heard that monsters don't have heart, but I can hear yours beating loud and proud.
The unicorn tried to speak, but every time a word should have come out, a groan or silence would replace it. Applejack moved her head up and nuzzled Twilight's neck.
Sugar Cube, please, if you don't come back to town, at least come back to the cave.
Twilight looked away, and after being allowed up by Applejack, solemnly walked back into the cave with the orange pony right beside her. They both lied back down, and Twilight huddled closely as she could to Applejack in a complete silence. The two mares watched the rain fall, and were left with only their thoughts for the conversation.
What should I do? This is not how I wanted her to find out how I feel about her, but it may be the only thing that gets me to get her back into town. Though it may only make things worse.
Applejack thought, biting her lower lip in frustration. Twilight, on the other hand, only thought of what she meant to Applejack.
How can she love me? I'm not totally different from every pony else. Well, technically she is, but can I love her back? Am I allowed to after what happened in town? Or with that filly? Does she really want to be with me?
A small break in the clouds allowed for a sliver of moonlight to reach down and drape itself over Twilight's hoof. She watched as it got brighter for just a moment before fading to blackness.
This opportunity is like the moonlight. If I don't keep hold of it, it'll slip away forever.
Applejack?
Yes, Sugar Cube?
Twilight sighed and turned to look at the farm pony.
Do you really love me? And if you do, why? I'm no pony special.
Well, at least she doesn't think she's a monster anymore. That's a step in the right direction.
Applejack thought before answering the magic pony.
I do, Twi. I really do. As for why, it's hard to explain. I'd like to say it's the old saying of opposites attract is why, but that doesn't seem to do it much justice. You see, when I first saw you down on the farm, there was this glow around you that I couldn't unsee after you left. As time went on, the glow never faded, and you opened yourself up to us. You're smart, beautiful, quick thinker. The list goes on and on. But whenever a flaw of mine showed itself, you just took it in stride and never once judged me, and whenever one of your flaws showed, I was there to show. That was when I saw the real you. Like any pony else, you just want some pony to be there for you in a more friendly-like way. Like some pony to just lay with you until dawn, without a word between you and still be happy. What I'm trying to say is, I love you for just being you.
Twilight could see the warm smile and faint blush on Applejack's face as she finished her monologue.
I see.
Twilight said nothing after that, but simply buried her face into Applejack's neck.
Thank you, Applejack. I really appreciate this.
The apple just lightly patted Twilight's head and said,
Tain't no problem, Sugar Cube. Just doing what any pony would do for her friend.
Twilight looked up and stared into the emerald green orbs that looked back at her.
No, you're doing what any lover would do for the pony they loved.
With her sentence finished, Twilight closed her eyes and tenderly pressed her lips against Applejack's. The farmer smiled as tears of joy cascaded down her face as she gently kissed Twilight back. When the two pulled away from each other, they saw that the storm had lightened to a faint drizzle.
Come on, let's go back home.
The two stood up, and as they stood at the entrance of the cave, Applejack took Twilight's hoof into her own and said,
I promise you, I won't let any pony ever hurt you again.
With another kiss, the two walked into the Everfree and back to Ponyville. The end.